showed up. It's great. Thanks so much for coming to our 9th annual Musical Anatomy Superhero. I'm not Michael Giacchino, but he will be up shortly. Thanks again. You know, it's been an amazing year for superhero movies, and we're thrilled that some of the people we have this year have not done it before. And the first person we're bringing out will be Laura Karpman. I was making short introductions, but I guess I have to talk for a second. Anyway, Laura Karpman she's a member of the Motion Picture Academy. Yeah! Our next panelist is the king of all music, Gotham, for all the Gotham series, David Russo. Next, he's been on this panel several times for The Boys, for other Marvel projects, and we'll see if he's involved with Gen V, which is a kind of spin-off of The Boys. Christophe Lennertz. Yeah! And then I'm so proud we have somebody new. We had Benjamin Wallfish set, but he had a production deadline, so he couldn't make it. But we have a wonderful substitution. If you've seen Beef, he's a composer on Beef. Goes by Haxan Cloak, but he's also known by his regular name, Bobby Furlick. He's got the new Blue Beetle movie coming out. And then the busiest man in the superhero world is coming up, and he's been on our panel many, many times. He did a couple of big movies you saw here again. Ladies and gentlemen, Christophe Beck. And I'm so proud, back again to moderate. This guy's done so much stuff. You know him as a composer, but he's also, like the last clip you saw, he was the director of that. So now he's composer, Oscar-winning composer, director, Michael Giacchino.
Hey everyone, how you doing? You know, last year when I did this, I remember getting here and I was hungover and doing this panel, but this year I'm completely good, so it'll be much more fun. So welcome to San Diego. It's nice to be back at Comic Con. Yeah, you can do that. Hey, come on, how great are these people here? This is gonna be really great. Alright, so we're just gonna get into it. We're gonna talk a little bit. Anyone have anything they want to say before we start? Anyone, Laura, you want to tell us about your outfit here? Who are you dressed as?
People have ever seen Absolutely Fabulous?
Yeah! There you go. Her heavy costumes and Absolutely Fabulous. All right, remember, lean into the mics when you talk. Okay, so Laura, you're kind of like artist. Your first time on this panel, correct? And yet, in the last few years, you've been doing a whole ton of superhero stuff. What If, right?
Yes.
And what are you in the middle of right now?
Marvels.
The Marvels, which is really cool. So, what can you tell us about this sort of, for years you have been not doing superhero stuff. What's it like to kind of jump into this whole thing?
Oh, it's awesome. Are you kidding? It's like, I mean, everybody on the panel will attest. I think it's the best place for a composer to be. I mean, it's just, it's like a dream come true for me, honestly. I mean, I've been able to, I love the MCU. I love the characters that I've been able to work with and amplify. I love recording with an orchestra. I mean, just to be able to do that all the time is such a privilege and such a gift. And everybody at Marvel, I think too, they love music.
Yeah, they do.
Right? So it's like, they're thematic people. I mean, Kevin loves a theme. And so it's my hang. It's really good.
So when you were growing up, were you into superheroes at all? Did you read comic books? And be honest.
Well. I was into superheroes, but not the comic kind. I mean, more like Billie Jean King and people. No, I studied classical music. I mean, I was a really serious classical music composer. I grew up playing classical music and playing jazz, so I thought that was kind of the way that my life was going to go, and this has been yet another kind of left turn, or right turn for me since I'm left-handed. But it actually is not so much of a right turn because it fits really well with obviously having an intense background in classical music.
And what was your first film, first movie you saw that you can remember seeing in a movie theater?
Oh wow, what a great question. Oh, I mean, I was obsessed with Alfred Hitchcock when I was a kid, and like films like Notorious, Rear Window, North by Northwest. I mean, I think that have always been drawn to film and to drama, and those are the films that really spoke to me. But I mean, I've been a movie buff my whole life. I mean, all kinds of esoteric films that I mean, this is really showing my true stuff. You asked me if I read comic books. No, I was taking a class on Ingmar Bergman, college, and I went a different route. But I'm really pleased to be here and to be embraced by this community. I mean, it's a real honor.
And another question about movies. Do you remember the first soundtrack that you owned?
Yeah, it was by Bela Bartok, and it was nobody knows who Bela Bartok is. Igor Stravinsky. The first soundtrack I owned, it would have to be North by Northwest.
Ah, good one. Bernard Herrmann. Excellent. Excellent. So you brought something to show us?
I did.
Yeah?
Yes, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
It's not the Marvels, that's for sure. Probably Miss Marvel. Yeah, it's probably Miss Marvel, I think.
Wait, before we show the clip though, did you actually, have you premiered the theme for
Yeah, it was really, really a great thing because we were able to premiere the theme at Philadelphia Prime, which felt really good. And the Philadelphia Orchestra played it, so it's out there in the universe. If you look hard enough, you can hear it, although it's not publicly supposed to be out there at all. But yes, there is a theme, and it's a great, it's really about collaboration and people joining together to see how much stronger they can be when they work as a team.
Woo! Excellent. I love that. All right, well, let's watch the clip for Laura Karpman. Clip. You collaborate.
I'm happy to sing it for you. I can walk parts.
Amazing. And there's really listen to that score apart from the show because there's so many amazing sounds going on, and she did an incredible job with that. So great job. Love it. Should we leapfrog then over to Chris? Okay. Don't pretend we didn't see that clip. Hey, so what are you here to talk about then? No, actually, I would like to talk to you about something very specific, Chris. And this is something I did not know about you until today. You were in a band as a young kid, right?
Yes.
What was the name of this band?
Why don't you tell me what the name of the band was?
Well, you can tell me if my sources are correct. It's Chris and the Cupcakes.
That's Chris, and we're the Cupcakes.
Yeah, we're going to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame next month. No, that was in middle school. I was 12, 13, I played keyboards. We didn't have a lead singer, we had a lead saxophone player. And we played a mix of covers and originals, and we did one show total, and it was like an assembly at my middle school, and I got to feel like a little mini rock star. So, very fond memory.
Wow, so when is the reunion concert going to happen? This is, where are those other players today?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Okay, that's good. So it does say, it describes the band as playing tender 80s love ballads. So we love that. And another thing, actually, you wrote an opera way back. Oh, based on the Telltale Heart.
Yeah, that was like my senior project in college. Something I started to notice in college especially was that I really gravitated toward music that helped tell a story. This is what we all do every day. And I noticed that I wrote a couple of musicals. Before I ever got into film scoring, I still found myself really drawn to the power music has to help tell stories.
So did the opera help kind of drive you towards what you're doing now, just based on the storytelling aspects of it, all of that? Was film scoring something you even had in your head at that time?
It didn't. But I noticed besides the storytelling aspect, I also noticed that for me, having a deadline and an assignment is kind of critical for me to actually get anything done. And those were all, those projects, the musicals, the opera, we had like a date, we had a venue booked, and that's when I knew I had to start writing. So great preparation.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Laura, which is, what's the first movie you saw in a theater? Do you remember?
I don't remember the very first movie I saw in a theater, but I remember the first superhero movie I saw in a theater, and that was Superman. First Superman with Christophe.
The best.
I don't want to pretend you asked me. Actually, it's really hard to hear up here. I don't know if you asked Laura. She read comic books as a kid, but did you?
Wait, say it again?
You can see.
It's so hard to hear here. I feel like we're in the Grand Canyon.
Did you ask Laura if she read comic books as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to pretend you asked me that because I have this incredible memory of being a kid and like a lot of people in the world, forced to take piano lessons as a kid. My parents were really on me for practicing, and what I would do is record myself playing scales for like 45 minutes. And I would blast it through the speakers from the basement while I lay down on the floor reading comic books. Scoring comic books. And if the theme to Agatha, Coven of Chaos sounds like this, dun, 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 you know why.
What comic books were those? Do you remember any of your favorites?
What? Sorry, what's that?
Any of your favorite character comics? Like, what were your favorite characters growing up?
Well, I was a big X-Men fan, in particular.
Excellent. All right. Well, the Ant-Man. Now you've done all three, right? Is this have you done other trilogies? Or is this your first sort of full? What else?
The Hangover.
The Hangover trilogy. I love that. That's amazing. Tell us about how did you get that first Ant-Man job, and then how did it evolve musically from there? Did you evolve it? Did you try different things? What did you do as you got to the third one?
After the success of Frozen, Marvel started to show interest in me in working on one of their projects. Got close a couple times, never really sealed the deal until Peyton Reed was hired to direct the first Ant-Man movie. And Peyton's first movie was also my first movie. I believe it just celebrated his 22nd or 23rd anniversary, which is Bring It On. And we had worked together, obviously, both very early in our careers. He went on and did a bunch of movies without me. I went on and did a bunch of movies without him. And then because Marvel had been sniffing around, my name came up and Peyton remembered what a great time we had working on it. For the music, you asked how it evolved. It really has evolved. It evolved from, in the first movie, a really fun heist caper vibe, where we went kind of old school. And then, by the time we got to the third movie, it had expanded so much in scope. The third movie, of course, takes place all in the quantum realm, a totally imaginary and fantastical environment with crazy visuals, and the music needed to grow in scope to match the story. The first couple of Ant-Mans were very self-contained stories. They packed a punch emotionally, but the themes were small. It was about Scott and his family. By the time we got to the third movie, we're into saving the universe territory and introducing a major villain, and so the music needed to just grow in scope.
So, they're fun working on them, huh?
What's that?
You have fun working on them?
Yeah. It's
Do you prefer the big ones to the smaller ones, to like an independent film, or is it just...
You know, they each bring challenges. Working on any Marvel movie brings a certain amount of pressure, of course, and especially like with the Ant-Man movies, we went from, like I said, a small movie that didn't really have a large role in a larger universe to Quantumania, where it really felt like we were setting the tone for something much bigger. It's all fun. It's just a question of how big the resources you have available to you as a composer, but I will admit that that I did get a kick out of working on a movie that felt like it was part of something a little bit more important.
Yeah. Well, great job. Great work. I think we can all agree. Great work. David Russo. You've been working as a composer for a long time now, haven't you? Yeah. What was your first paid gig as a composer?
As a composer?
Actually, let's go back up. You started as were you a touring musician, a studio musician? What did you play?
I was in a band, played piano and guitar.
Yeah.
So a failed band, Epic Records, early 90s, it all happened.
Was it called Chris and the Cupcakes?
No, it was a band called Sun 60. So we, 3 CDs, toured the country, and did a lot of opening for other bands. And then, of course, the band imploded in 96. And then, as what happens with a lot of musicians, hey, I can score films, maybe. Plan B.
So how was that transition? How did you make that transition into doing that? That's a tough thing to do.
I started scoring films in college, and I actually did a few even while the band was an ongoing thing. But then when the band self-destructed, at that point, our friend Tim Simon knew this composer, Graham Revell, he needed an assistant. And I, added tapes, sent it in, and then ended up doing a lot of work with Graham for years. We did Chronicles of Riddick, Sin City, all kinds of stuff. And I learned a lot from that guy, and so then eventually moved on to other stuff.
And you were working on movies at that point too, right, with him?
Yeah, he did a lot of 30 films or something.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. So in terms of, tell us a little bit about what it's like on a television schedule. Like for an episode of, say Gotham, how much time would you have to do that?
You got about 12 days.
12 days?
7 to 12 days, depending on the episode. And it's a different kind of animal because I'm not recording live orchestra. Gotham was essentially an orchestral score, so it's that challenge of trying to breathe life into the machines and trying to get things that sound, that serve the thing. But no, luckily in Gotham, there's always somebody screaming or getting shot or stabbed. So it covers a lot of flaws in the score.
Have you ever done a job where you had to do 2 shows at once?
No, I never have.
You never have? You're a lucky man. You're a lucky man. So what do you got happening right now in your life?
Well, we just finished this Gotham Knights, another DC show.
Excellent. Right on. And then what's next after that?
Lunch.
Sounds good. Let's check out the clip from David Russo. That is to get to sound like that. That sounded great. So great work. Real quick, first movie you saw in the theater?
Oh, my friend, the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. There was a woman that was my first naked woman putting on a sweater.
All right, let's roll back in.
I don't know.
And first soundtrack you owned? Do you remember?
Planet of the Apes, Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith. Thank you for being here. Chris Lennertz. Sir. That's right. I feel like Well, we know the boys, right? Come on. Chris has also done a million things here. I'd be here all day if I was like reading all of these things. But the thing I really want to talk about is the thing that's on your shirt, which is Rockin' the Musical. So let's get into that. Tell me what?
Right? Yeah, so I consider myself massively lucky, and we'll be talking about both the boys in that, because I think I've now done in the last year the biggest polar opposite superhero songs that the fact that I got to write Chimps Don't Cry for Crimson Counts and the boys, when literally people are getting gored and exploding and all kinds of stuff that you can't show to your kids, and then do almost the exact opposite. So I got a call in January, actually early January, from the director who I did a fireworks show for Disney that's out right now called Wondrous Journeys. We did that together. And he and I, he said to me, the Venn diagram of people who like Broadway and superheroes is like this big. They really hardly cross ever. And he's like, and you're like the one guy I know who would actually like to do both. So do you want to make a full musical out of what started with the amazing song from Hawkeye that Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman wrote? And so literally in 4 months, I wrote 5 new songs, plus reprises, as well as rearranged the Shaman song and Star Spangled Man, which was Alan Menken and David Zippel from the original Captain America, into a piece of story that is now a one-act musical at the Hyperion.
The creation of the story elements of it as well? Were there writers in like what?
Absolutely. So we basically started we hit the ground running, and we knew we had an end of June opening. So we went in really strong, and Jordan Peterson, who's our director, had an outline for the story and had written a bunch of lyrics already. And then we brought in this guy, Hunter Bell, from Broadway, who is a Tony-nominated Broadway writer. And we all just sort of sat in a room. Alice Brucus, who also works with me, who ended up writing a lot of the lyrics with me, we all just sat there and spitballed and had big pieces of paper on the room, like, what happened? And we decided very early on, for those of you who know my backstory a little bit, so I also did Agent Carter. And so I have a very soft spot, and we got to do a song for Agent Carter. So we realized very early on that love stories make the best musicals. So we knew that, if we only have 30 plus minutes, and we need to have a reason why people that you wouldn't normally expect to sing would sing, it's gotta come from there. And so we really said we're gonna tell Cap's story as precisely and quickly as possible, and try to make sure we go Cap to the end when he reunites with Peggy, and that's what we do in the story. And then luckily we were able to infuse some lighter material and some more comedic material, and so we were able to do what I think everyone has talked about. I'm pretty sure that's what maybe our clip is about today. Is we were able to get Nick Fury to sing. That was the big, and that's exactly the opposite of what Sam would ever do in a movie. So, but apparently, when we first went into Marvel and pitched the idea, we were all very nervous about what's Kevin gonna say when we're like, oh yeah, there's a big song and dance number where literally Kevin is, where Nick Fury is soft shoeing and basically updating a Cap on his 70 years in the ice. And not only did he not hate it, he said it should be on the billboard.
Yeah.
So it all worked out pretty well.
I was going to ask about Kevin's reaction, because I know that he actually is a musical fan. He loves musicals, and so he's in that Venn diagram with you.
Yes.
Should we, what about, real quick before we go to this, I would love to know for you, do you have a recollection of the first movie you saw in a theater?
Absolutely. I think the recollection is Empire Strikes Back. Woo! No, we're in Star Wars, but the first one that I actually sort of remember completely is Empire Strikes Back, and I remember it because if my mom was here, she would tell you that she has 37 ticket stubs, all for Empire Strikes Back, including 3 in France, which is, in France they called it L'Empire Contre-Attaque, because I lived in France when I was 9 for a year, and so I saw it 3 times in France and 34 times in America.
My memory of seeing Empire Strikes Back in the theater was that my dad fell asleep during the asteroid field. And I remember on the way home just berating him, how did you do this? What kind of father are you?
So you left home right after
I left home right away, I packed up a bindle, and I headed out to the highway, and here I am. That's what I do for a living. All right, let's check out the clip for Chris Lennertz. Soundtrack you bought, do you remember?
I think Rocky was actually the first one.
Bill Cosby. That was an amazing. I listened to that so much growing up as well. I grew up right outside of Philadelphia, so. All right, Bobby. Bobby. I know it's always like, you know, it feels like people suddenly come on the scene and you're like, where did this person come from? They came out of nowhere, but I know that's not the truth because you must have been doing something for the years leading up to that first time you got to score something. Now, I just want to say that I am a massive fan of Beef. I saw that, I watched the whole show in 2 days, and I was just obsessed with it. And part of the reason I was obsessed with it, I absolutely love the music you wrote for that. So I would say congrats. Also, Midsommar, I mentioned this backstage, Midsommar is the freakiest movie I've ever seen. You killed it on that as well. So again, I know you didn't just pop up out of nowhere, so tell me a little bit about how you got to this place.
Well, I kind of started off releasing solo music, as mentioned, I released that under the name of Haxan Cloak. And that is, you know, it was it's instrumental, kind of dark, orchestral / electronic, kind of weird music. And that was kind of my idea. Like, I've been obsessed with film since I was 7 years old. Like, for Christmas every year I used to get the Time Out Film Bible, and for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it is literally just a book of every review Time Out I've ever written for a movie. There's no pictures. So I just used to read it, and I would circle all the films that sounded interesting to me that I wanted to see. Anyway, so film has been huge in my life forever. At some point music kind of took over, and that's why I ended up, you know, knowing that I wanted to do. I always wanted to write music for films and I never knew how, so I guess my way of doing that was like, well, I'm just going to write this instrumental music and I'm going to think about images in my head and I'm going to see how that sounds if I try and make it. Somewhere along the line that got into the hands of Trent Reznor, who gave it to Atticus Ross, and then almost a decade ago I was invited to come out to LA to meet Atticus. I didn't know why. I was very excited, huge fan. And he asked me if I'd like to help him scoring some stuff, of which I said yes. And 2 weeks later we started work on Black Hat by Malcolm Mann, which was a complete baptism of fire. And it just kind of rolled from there. We did a John Hillcoat film called 999. And then shortly after I moved to LA, and I started working on my own. I got my first TV series in 2016, which was a Netflix show called Shooter. From there I did 7 Seconds, Ancient Darkness, Snowpiercer. And then Midsommar happened, and somehow now we're here.
Okay, so Midsommar, working on that, was that terrifying? Like, was it hard to watch? I mean... It was. I remember that, well, the first time I went to a screening of it, I mean, I was on that film for a long time through, you know, before even Hereditary had got made. So I had an idea of what it was going to be like. The first director's cut screening that I went to, for some reason, they showed it at 7:30 in the morning. And it was 3 hours long. And I had a panic attack and went to the hospital. Well, you did great. It all ended up great. And now,
once you've seen it 300 more times, it gets easier.
But now, Blue Beetle, right? Right? When I first saw the trailer for that, I got really excited. excited for it because it felt like a personal movie.
It really is. Like, it's really a very different kind of superhero film. You know, it's got this huge beating heart. It's all about community and family, and I think it's really important.
And was that a tough job to get for you? Or was it just sort of invite you in and let you do your thing, or how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, I met with the director pretty early. He knew my music, kind of knew what I was about, and you know, I've been telling everybody that would listen for the past decade that I wanted to score a superhero film, and everyone was like, "Yeah, but your music's really weird." And with this, you know, he genuinely wanted to do something quite challenging and a little different, and you know, the exciting thing about this for me that we kind of joked about was like, sometimes it can feel a bit like a Trojan horse, you know, that you have all these kind of strange sonnets and weird ideas, but if you kind of know how to wrap that up in a way, you know, that does the thing that it's supposed to do, it's almost like a magic trick, and I find that really exciting.
No, it is. It's a lot of fun. It's great. Well, welcome to Comic-Con, and I hope this is just as fun as let's check out the Clifton body here, because, and I believe it's just sound. I believe it's just music. Is this?
I have no idea.
I think so. I think, well, if it is, we'll just sit and listen nicely. Here we go. Your first movie is on the theater, you remember?
First movie I saw in the theater, my brother is like 5 years older than me, and when we were younger we were very avid skateboarders. He ended up in the hospital because he broke his leg. And while he was in the hospital, he won a competition on the hospital radio to go see Wayne's World 2. He really wanted to take his girlfriend at the time, and my mum made him take me. So that is the first film I vividly remember seeing in the cinema, probably because I felt so smug that I could replace my little girlfriend.
And did you collect soundtrack? What was your first movie film score?
In terms of score, I don't remember the first score that I bought. The soundtrack, I remember going and finding an import of the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. Because it was the only way that I could find Red Right Hand by Nick Cave at the time.
All right, fair enough. All right. Excellent. So I think we have some time for some questions. Is that right? I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Don't you understand? Don't you? All right, great. Excellent. Go for it.
Hey guys, thank you for coming. Christopher, we have a lot in common. I was also in a band in middle school called Lloyd and the Twinkies. And Laura, I love Agatha, Wheels on Fire, baby.
Thanks.
So I prepared my question, I'm sorry. So I'm not musically inclined, but I would like to know how much of your personal influence is used in your composed music, and how much is dictated by the studio you're working with. Has it become a template to follow, or do you have free range to use your musical expertise?
That depends. I think it varies greatly. I think, for me at least, the crazier the project, the more freedom I have, which is great. Like, The Boys has been phenomenal, and Gen V, when you guys see that, also phenomenal, because it's so not what anyone expects or is used to, that there isn't a template. And I had a showrunner, creator, dear friend of mine, Eric Kripke, who trusted me after 15 years of Supernatural and all this great stuff. So that always helps. And then when you get an idea and nobody knows what Nick Fury's singing is supposed to look like, or Cap singing a ballad to himself, that gives you more freedom when you're actually doing the thing that lives in a genre that's more, perhaps there are more examples of. Everyone has more expectations, and I feel like that point is when we start to hear, especially when it's a huge budget movie like some of the ones you guys have done up here, you know, there's a lot of expectations, and there's a lot of, you know, pressure in terms of this needs to feel like a big, fat, expensive superhero movie, and so that puts the handcuffs on maybe a little tighter, I don't know, but
There you go. All right. Next up.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. This is anyone can take this question, but you've all created such iconic scores, but the most standing out to me is the specific theme songs that you created for these characters, these movies that we all know and love and listen to 1,000 times. How do you come up with these themes, these specific themes that fit so perfectly for the movie you're scoring?
All right, 10 seconds each. Go.
Walks. Like seriously, like walks with the phone where you're thinking about the character and you're thinking about what's singable and what people can instantly recall when they hear something, I think.
Walking my dog at home.
Yeah?
I always try to think, what's the music that they're hearing in their head? Like, what is Homelander hearing? And that's what
Yes, I'm gonna have to say, walking my dog.
I just want to make sure the tune can actually have the title character as the lyrics. So like,
It's funny, just to go on, I had a teacher at USC who said that if you really think hard enough, you can find any good theme you can actually put lyrics to. So she would sing like, in Jurassic Park, it is very dark. Here comes the shark, here comes the shark, here comes the shark. That's true always. That always happens.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about collaborating with showrunners and directors and sort of what are things that your partners in that way have done that you appreciate.
sure. Sorry, what's the question? The last part?
About collaboration with showrunners and directors and what they've done that you appreciate.
I think what we all learn early in our careers is how to shed our egos and how to really embrace that we're part of a team. So I think what I have learned from collaborating with filmmakers is how to do just that. How to set aside my own vision of how I might look good or how my music might sound good on its own, and instead really embrace being part of a larger collective goal, which is to tell a great story.
Thank you, Beck. Excellent.
Hi there. I have a question for Christophe. So, Mona's finally out. I watched it with my cousins after coming back from Anime Expo, and can I say it's pretty metal? I just wanted to ask, do you have any fun stories from making it? I know it was stuck in kind of development hell for a while, so, also, if you have a favorite character theme that you made from it.
Yeah, that was easy. The main theme, Dimmel's theme, is my favorite character. Actually co-written with my wife, who I just married 10 days ago, and sitting right over there. She also is the voice of Mona. She's a beautiful singer, and we wrote the theme together, and anytime you hear the singing in the movie, that's her. And those of you who've seen the movie might remember a chase scene that takes place in a subway, and there's like a busker playing saxophone. And I tried to convince the film, I play saxophone. So even though I played keyboards and Chris and the Cupcakes, and there was another guy, I can play saxophone better than that guy. Anyway, I thought, I would pitch the idea to them that it would actually be me playing the saxophone, and furthermore, I wanted them to put me in the movie, like an animated version of actually this. I did this whole pitch to them, and like, that sounds like a great idea, and then crickets, then nothing. So I'm gonna keep trying to get my.
Hi all, thank you for your time. My name is Sabrina. So I actually work in synchronization, licensing, and music, so it's a little bit different from scoring. What is the consideration when using a score versus commercially recorded music? Do you have to say in it? Do you have to get in touch with different folks on the production?
They've always had a music supervisor, and by the time the show gets to me, the editors have worked it over pretty well, so those songs are usually in place. So that's an easy one. Like, okay, that's another minute I don't have to write.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is sometimes when you're lucky, you get to take something that they want and either do a new arrangement of it or do something where you produce it for a character. Like, in The Boys, we do that a lot. We were able to do that with, Jensen Ackles doing Blondie, which was singing. And so we got to actually record him doing the whole rap. from Rapture, which was cool, and I always love when I get that call because it doesn't happen that often.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out today. We were just at California Adventure for Rogers, and really just walking through Avengers campus and all the color, just hearing everyone's music, just bringing so much color to the world. I mean, to me, that was the best. Honestly, it's a beautiful show. So congratulations on Rogers. What do you all think is the aspect of your composing that you consider unique, or do you have a technique that you think is different from other composers, anything like that?
You want to take that?
Yeah.
Go on.
I guess I really like taking everyday things and trying to make them sound every day. So, I have a huge wall of modular synths in my studio that everybody says it's like a plane cockpit. So I'll take violin or piano or voices and I'll put them through all these different distortions and modulated reverbs and stuff. And, so it's like you kind of get this idea of, hey, like I kind of know that sound. It feels familiar, but I don't recognize it. And it takes you, with music, I think the best part of music for me is escapism, going to a place that you don't normally get to go to. So if I could try and do that as much as possible in the scores that I write, then that's kind of my favorite thing.
Great.
Thank you so much. And the model was incredible. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Adam. I'm a music teacher, and this question is inspired by two of my students who actually created a mashup of the Batman theme and the Imperial March, which I really enjoyed. So what is the most exciting and most difficult part of composing a movie or scene with multiple heroes?
Laura, you want to take it?
With multiple heroes, having themes that work together. So I think in particular when you've got and this is really the world of what if all the time, right? Where you've got, I'm working with your music, I'm working with Chris's music, Ludwig, all of it, and then my own. So you've got these multiple themes that it's a crossword puzzle, where you've got to make them work together and figure out what's going on, where not only thematically but harmonically. I think that's probably the hardest thing, but also it's really, really fun to do. I love it. Thank you for teaching music.
We've got time for a couple more. We're just got a couple more minutes, so.
Hello, this question can go to any of you that'd like to answer. I don't know about you, but I felt sometimes in some movies that motif was played too many times or too few times, like in the Shire motif in Fellowship of the Ring, of course, played almost 15 times, which as we know is too few. But question, have you ever felt that one of your motifs was maybe liked too much by the director, or is there a motif by another composer that you felt was underappreciated?
I think that you're always trying to do what's best for the film. So it's all about the story and the story being told. So you're always serving that. So if doing your theme over and over again serves that in the right way, well then that's what you do. So it's not really about like, well, I don't want to use it too much here, I don't want to do it. You were building a story, so you got to tell the entire story. And with that, so that's really what is dictating that most of the time. And when it's being done right, I don't know if anyone feels differently.
You look at it, I think you look at the film and you look at the demos, you look at the place in the film, you screen it with test audiences, and you look and see, is the theme being overused? Is it being underused? Where are we missing it? Where are those moments that we could augment that? And I think that's part of the craft of working in this genre.
And also the viewers aren't looking at it from that standpoint. They're just feeling it as it goes by.
Right.
And they're not conscious necessarily of when the theme's being played.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
That's great insight. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think that is it for today. Sadly, I know. We'll do the one more real quick if you get quick.
I'll make it quick. Best instrument to incorporate into your scores.
Okay.
That you feel like it's like
lightning round. Here we go. Laura.
12 French horns.
Voice. So 12 French horns, voice.
Solo jump.
I just used a 7-string guitar, which I enjoy. Cupcakes.